that have to point upwards?
If it's just on the outside as opposed to the inside. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, that's correct. Actually, I'll move that a little bit along because otherwise it'll be. There we go.
Yep.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll start to talk about the barrage balloon sites and the baseball game.
Right. We're live?
Yeah. But I can chop this bit off the end. So if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll just...
Yeah, okay. Hello there. My name is Norman Harrison. I'm now aged 80, and I have had a lot of connections with the Allens Cross organisation over the years, particularly since 1974 when I first moved to Northfield. Prior to that, I'd lived in Selly Oak. I made a lot of friends there, and they gave me quite a bit of information about Allens Cross Sports Ground during the war years. This was with the aim of helping me to write a book about the whole history of the place. But going back to the war years, I've got a few recollections from different people to hand. One of them was like Chris Cadbury, who was very much involved with the whole association. And I've got to note that he spoke about there being a barrage balloon site there, and that he thought that they'd ruined the land drainage at the sports ground. It's never been the same since, for his words. But later on, I would think, the late Fred Dorrell was telling me quite a bit more about the wartime years. And one of those was that they had anti-aircraft guns located on the site. I think there were quite a number all round the area to defend the Austin Works and various other things, together with the barrage balloons. And he said that they were situated only about 20 yards above where the present main pitch trainers box is, and that there were a series of such guns all over the place. They were very crudely made, apparently, mostly of angle iron, the idea being to put just a lot of shrapnel around any German aircraft and keep them away from the factories. He thought there was also quite a large battery of such guns over at California, the other side of Wheelie Castle, 12 guns in all, manned by a group from the Royal Artillery. I remember personally the sound these guns made at night, because I had to shelter with my family in Selly Oak from all through the Blitz as a youngster, and there was an echoing bang throughout the area of the guns firing. It was made more noise and more frightening than the actual bombs, but there was you could hear the aircraft droning around in the sky, and they got a distinctive sound which you could pick up. The whistle of the bombs occasionally in a crump. But on one occasion in particular, we were bombed out when they dropped a landmine in Selly Oak near the junction of the railway and the canal bridges, and it drifted down with a long drawn-out whistling sound, until eventually there was one hell of a bang, and it was the other side of Hubert Road where I lived, and I remember in particular that slates, all the houses were slated in those days. They just came raining down all round the shelter for a long while. They must have been blown right up in the air and came down, and they all filled the yard. We had to wade through them to get out. And the front of the house was badly damaged, but the opposite side of the road was completely wiped out, so I was rather lucky to be still there. Later in the war, Fred Dorrell recalled to me that the Home Guard, which he was involved with, Dad's Army as it's called lately, they had a training area there, and it was very frightening. Apparently they practiced throwing live hand grenades from trenches at targets, and he said he didn't find it very easy. I believe also the fire service needed a sports ground, and they had something connection with the ground because they were a much bigger organisation in those days. The interesting thing about the war years is that the American forces came over here from about 1942 onwards, and of course they had their own sports and looked for recreation, so they came across Allen's Cross, and apparently they set up baseball, and they had a diamond there which was near where there's a all-weather pitch now. The group in particular were from the 10th Replacement Depot at Whittington Barrett's Lichfield. I think that was a sort of holding arrangement where they fed troops across to the continent as and when they needed them from Britain. So in those waiting times, the pitch was 43 and 44 were sort of the highlights of it, and they played a number of local teams. They even had a cup final there, I believe, when the Yanks played the Canadians. I never heard who won. It was quite popular among the locals to go along and see the baseball, and I had a friend in Meadowbrook Road, which is opposite the sports ground, and he was telling me one day how friendly they were, and he'd still got a baseball bat that they gave him. The baseball continued after the war, even though the Americans all went home, and locals picked it up. And there was a league going involving Allen's Cross ground up to, I believe, about 1948. They played a number of teams. I've even got a little leaflet, membership card, fixture card, and it describes teams such as Daytona, Mohawks, Beavers, Pirates and Dunlop, but where they were all based I couldn't say, but it was quite enjoyable. I have another friend who said that he used to go and watch, as he lived in the Allen's Cross estate at the time, now lives at Barnt Green here, and he said that he really enjoyed it, and he recalls a couple of people. There was David Court, who was very prominent in the team, and Johnny Barras was a popular pitcher. He thinks it faded out there somewhat after the war, and they kept going for a time on the sports ground. The Kalamazoo Works had a sports ground onto the Bristol Road. They were there for a time, and then he tells me they moved to Bromsgrove area, where they had some games at Garrington Sports Ground, and apparently all reference to them, everything seemed to fade out about the 1950s, but that's about it, really, the war years.